So we're about ready to start our tour here. We have a little sanctuary going on. This was a wild duck that came into our presence. Here's one of our cultivated blackberries that you can see. Been nurturing them, and now we have a huge patch of these wonderful blackberries. So my wife here, this is Vaughn Davey, and she's been with me for 40 years or more, and we've worked together to create this wonderful place. We have divided this property into several lots for devotees. We have a house over there, a house up in the back, a house down here, and then we have another couple houses down lower by the bottomland. We're way up on the hill here, and this was once an Indian village, believe it or not. And if you look over here to the this way, you can see this is where the springs come out. And this is how I discovered this place, by coming up the ravine and finding these springs. And I actually found the basin carved in the rock where the Indians used to dip their pots for water. The first thing we're going to see is the temple site, okay, the most wonderful spot on our property. And now we're going to try to live in harmony with Mother Nature and develop an ideal lifestyle with Krishna in the center. So come on, we're going to go see the temple site.
West Virginia, Blue Mountains, Shenandoah River.
And so here we are in the new Jamuna Valley, and we have this wonderful location. And the trees that you see as he's making his panoramic view here, most of them are tulip poplar. Now these poplar are ideal for building, and the characteristics of this tree are awesome. They never rot. When the boards are placed on a barn or a building, all the old barns you might see have poplar siding. They have that characteristic of shedding water. Now the bark also has this characteristic, and it too can shed water and last a very long time as shingles. So we plan to use this in our building of the Krishna Balaram temple. And this tree, this is a sugar maple. And we have many, many of these on our property. I make maple syrup here on a very small scale because I'm only one man and I have no good equipment. But I make up 3 to 4 gallons of maple syrup every year from my own endeavors. But we have potential here for doing much, much more. The whole hill below me is all predominantly maple trees. Okay, this is a recycled building. These were boards come from the temple, they throw it out. And the timbers are from a 200-year-old log cabin that I disassembled. And I cut the timbers into quarters by a process known as wedges and sledges. This is for hay, but I temporarily converted it into a summertime community center and temple. And if you turn this way, you'll see we have a big area here for people to sit, and I have hopes that we can have classes here on the natural living idea, other wonderful things, and also we can have music here. And so this is kind of a mountain stage. Let's take a look at the barn downstairs. I'd like to give you a little geology lesson right now. This is all sedimentary rock in this area of West Virginia, which is layers of rock. We have layers of sandstone, limestone, shale, coal, clay. And so what I've done here is excavate this rock formation and build different structures into, onto, and under the rock. So what happens is you can take your bars, such as this here, okay, and you can pry up the layers, okay, and you can make the flat. This was not flat. This was a big ledge. So I excavated it out and I built these rock walls. If you see the rock walls all around here, if we come into this area, this is the manger. Right now I have some food stored in here, but this is where the hay would be. And there's a trap door here for bringing the hay from above. This is a big grain storage area in there, okay, where the grains would be stored. I haven't got the cows yet. I'm working on it. Now we can go down here to this lower level. We're just following this rock ledge as we go. Okay, and here I began to collect a few implements for simple living. This is a cultivator, one row, and here's a nice walking plow. Okay, right here. This is good for oxen for simple living. Now on this level here is where you would bring in your wagon for your manure, and there's no machinery involved. You just use a wheelbarrow and a pitchfork, basically. See, these are the hand tools that you would use in our simple lifestyle. I'm going to show you a few other areas. Come on with me. This is a shelter barn for emergency sheltering of the animals. In the event of severe weather or other kind of natural disaster or man-made disaster, I dug in under the rock ledge and I created this with big logs, and there's a big earthen roof above these logs there, but there's a tunnel in the rock that connects. I don't know if their lighting is good enough to see that, but there's a tunnel out through there. It connects back into the backside. Now we'll go to the what I call a pavilion area. Now this is all built into the rock. There's a sink there, but this is a big wood-fired area. This is where I can tomatoes over an open fire. I have the dream of carving into the sandstone these Sanskrit verses from the Bhagavad Gita. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. We want to make sure these verses aren't lost. We're going to carve them into the sandstone, and they'll be here many, many years to come. This is a wall I built out of contractor bags. It seals off one big area here that I put into an underground, you could say, safety area. And then I used cordwood to complete the wall up there and just used mud and clay. And I want to build a wood-fired pottery kiln in this area, so we can have some cottage industry in this whole area. I'm trying to develop, self-reliance. So our little village can produce everything we need right here on this little hilltop. Okay, now we'll go to the next spot. I wanted to show you this kind of unique little spot. Here's two sugar maple trees, one bigger than the other, joined by a root that completely unifies these two trees. And they grew right on this massive rock. And it kind of is appropriate how a husband and a wife against all odds of making a way in the world, even in unfertile ground and in hostile conditions, can flourish. Here's 2 flourishing trees that I tap every year for the maple sugar. And down the way, we're going to come to my little maple product area, so come on with me. This is the entrance to the underground area. This is a secure area in case of catastrophic failure of modern civilization. What's so funny about that? So this is a little building that's built right into the rock ledge. Come on in. You look down, you see the stone floor. And we have water coming from a spring in here. We also have a little propane cook stove and a little barrel stove with some firewood. And here we have Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. This is with a casting, the original casting for Prabhupada's feet that was burnt. And so they discarded it. And I found it in the trash. It's a heavy little cuss. It's made of bronze, I believe. Sweet, sweet, can't be beat. What a treat, them 2 lotus feet. Okay, now we go up, take a look at our little porch out here. Okay, come on over, set a spell. And this overlooks the valley of the Wheeling Creek. Upon the top of that knoll sits an ancient burial mound of the Adena Indians. You see, they used to live here thousands of years ago. Right where our house and our property is on this hill was their village. Sadly, the white people, when they came, they removed these indigenous folks and began to farm this land. And at one time, there was no trees at all. If you can imagine, no trees. They cut them all, and they sold them. When the railroads came into this area, they sold their timber to build the cities of America. And now it's returned again to nature. The farms that were everywhere have disappeared. And now nature has retaken this wonderful valley. This is a little bathhouse area. I made a lot of windows in here from some sash that was thrown into the ravine. Like I said, everything's recycled. I dug in under this rock ledge, you see, supporting it with some massive, nice, big timbers. We have a little pipe coming out of this rock and spilling down over, and people can take their shower right here. Actually, I want to take and build a little pool right there so this water can flow right down over. It looks like this was made from water erosion, but more than likely it came from wind erosion. We're going to go to the sugar house, which is just over here. See, all these trees that you're looking at are all maple trees. These are the ones that I tap. That's an Ohio buckeye. You don't tap that. Now if you look ahead, here's our maple sugar house up here. We're going to take a little look. This too is built right into the rock ledge. You can see the rocks protruding there. This little operation is for the finishing of the maple syrup. This is called an evaporator. It's made of stainless steel. It's in 2 sections. This section up here is called the flue pan. It's got these channels. When you have a raging fire down here, the flames lick up around these channels to increase the boiling, because you need to boil it hard and fast to make good syrup. So then it comes through and into this finishing pan, and it goes and makes its way through these channels, and then it comes out on this side and is taken into the finished pan down below. It's all gravity feed. You take and put the sap up above and it runs in. Gravity feed, and this is a preheater All these channels kind of run the sap in here, and it kind of heats it up before it hits the pan, and it reduces your boiling time. So I use firewood, and my firewood is placed above, okay, so that gravity is employed. I bring it in from above and stack it in here so it's easy to get to, and I slam dunk it right into the furnace. And it really is not a one-man show, but it's been because nobody is here to help. So I've tried to get a few things started here just to inspire, and maybe we can take this ball and run with it and make a bunch of syrup and do a bunch of things. This is what we call the tree house. Obviously, recycled materials. So up the top level is a nice little cabin. The bottom level is a kitchen where I bottle all the syrup. And this other area has a big stainless steel water tank. It's fed by a spring on the other side of the road. Gravity feed, and all this water is a 500-gallon tank. It feeds the entire complex. This is my workshop. This is built out of wood from a 100-year-old house and locust posts. And come on, I'll show you what I do here. This is a shagbark hickory tree. Okay? Because it's a small tree, it doesn't have shaggy bark. But when it gets big, it gets very shaggy bark. It's the best tree for bending to making furniture. You can take these branches and you can bend them, and they don't break. See that? You can bend them right around in a circle. See that? Look at that. I'm bending it. It's hardly even doing anything to the skin. So what I did back a few decades ago was I apprenticed from the Amish, and I learned how to make the bentwood hickory rocking chairs. As I did this for about 10 years as my main business. I'm going to show you. I still do them occasionally. I got a couple in here. I'll just show you a couple chairs here. Okay, this is not one of them, just so you know. Get that out of the way. Okay, this is my own version of the chair, okay? It's not exactly the way the Amish do it because they have like 10 kids to help them with all the busy work. So I kind of took some shortcuts, and I made these seats and backs with antique wood, 100-year-old wood, as you can see. But I still do it the same way they do with the bent wood. But some of the sticks you put on hot and you bend them as you make the chair. So these sticks would be applied as you're building the chair. You bend them as you go. I also made some ox yokes, okay? I do a few things with wood, and I don't really have too much in the way of equipment here, but here's what you use for bending an ox bow. See, this is the size of an ox bow right here, and you would take a hickory similar to this, and you would bend it around here to make your bows. And these are northern hardy pecans. I just planted these about, 6-7 years ago. They've been growing good, but they haven't produced any pecans. Over here we've got hazelnuts. Okay, these actually grow real good here. This was just an experiment. But you can see these are the hazelnuts. I collect these, and these are very good nuts. They grow wild over in Europe. This is a sorghum patch that I grew expressly for the seed. I saved my own seed here. Okay? Get out of the sun here. Yeah, I saved my own seed, and I grew an acre of it up at the temple this year. And this is all it is, these itty-bitty little seeds. It's loaded with sugar juice. You squeeze all the juice out of these canes, and it takes 10 gallons of the juice to make 1 gallon of the syrup, as opposed to maple, 50 to 1. I also grew these heirloom pumpkins in with the sorghum this year. It kept the weeds down and the groundhogs in. Okay, I had quite a time. That's why I put all this thing here, to try to keep these groundhogs from going to town on my pumpkins, but they ate most of them. I didn't get too many, but I got enough so I can get seed for next year. Turns out groundhogs, they stay on the ground. They don't like to climb. This one happened to grow right in the fence there. So that's a good one. Nobody got that one. Over here we have a hawthorn berry tree. And the berries from the hawthorn are very excellent for lowering your blood pressure. So this was a natural tree that grew here. I just saved it. This one over here is an English walnut. Now it too has never produced a walnut yet because it didn't have a pollinator. So now we have a little baby English walnut, and hopefully it'll grow up to be a pollinator for my poor little walnut tree. There's some more of the hazelnuts over here. They grow quite a crop. It's time to harvest them now. It's kind of labor intensive to do, I'll tell you that, but I do it. Over here we have grapes, and I got 2 bushels of grapes off these vines this year. This garden over here, I produce a lot of sweet corn of the heirloom type, and I'm saving seed from that, and plus heirloom spaghetti squash and tomatoes and many things in this garden. Over here we've got northern hardy kiwi, itty bitty kiwi. They're not very big, but what the heck. They taste and look like kiwis. So that brings us full circle. Here we are, back where we started. I just wanted to give you a view of this shed down here. I built this out of that 200-year-old cabin. You see all those logs down there? They were the original cabin logs, and all the lumber in there came from the cabin. So underneath this cabin is a spring house where I dug into the rock ledge, tapped into the water as it comes out of the rock, and put in a big collection tank. And that way you can keep your food and milk cold if you don't have electricity. That's how the old timers used to do it. So I did it too. I guess I'm an old timer. Oh well, there's nothing I can do about it. And there's the woman that I mentioned earlier that never stops working. There she is again. And there's our little duck again. Never strays too far from mom. So thank you very much for coming on the tour. I'd love to see you all in person someday. And there's a lot more to see and talk about. But that may give you a little taste of life in the woods and fields. Hare Krishna.